Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. This is the third video in the series where I explore the Kilohearts kind of workflow and the whole suite. And today I want to talk about all of the insert effects that you can use. And we're mainly going to go over some of the special effects. I won't show you how their EQ works because that's fairly self-explanatory. But I hope after this video I will do probably one more video with some of the things that I've missed. And after that, I'll start using the Kilohearts stuff in my other tutorials when doing like actual, other tutorials like the sound design ones or whatever. And that way, if you have ever any questions on how some of these things work that I show off in those tutorials, I'll always refer you to this. And who knows, maybe we'll keep you up to date if there's new updates or new stuff being added, or if I just know more stuff about the software, I might make another video in this series. So for now, I'll do this last video, which is one of the main ones, and then we'll do that tips video, which is going to be maybe a week or two it will take. And then after that, we'll resume the normal videos and start focusing more on the sound design stuff and the stuff that you really like. I just kind of wanted to get this out of the way so you guys really know what the faceplant and in general the Kilohearts stuff is all about before I start using it regularly. So yeah, with that being said, these are some of the effects. Let's get right into it. Alright, so we have faceplant here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just quickly get a saw wave ready for us. So let me delete this and clean it up a little bit. We should be able to, yes, play a normal saw wave. And what I'll do is I'll go through some of the unusual effects that we have. So as you can see, there's a whole bunch of effects that are very, very familiar. You have some EQs here. You have different kinds of cues. I can quickly show you. This is a normal EQ here where you can just go up and down like this, and you can edit bands like this and make them wider and work that way. So it's a way of shifting up and down, and it's a different way of thinking about EQing, where it's more of making a drawing than anything else. And then there's a gain and a mix here, which allows you to mix it in properly. And then here we have slice EQ, which is just a normal EQ with your different bands here, stuff like this. But the cool thing about this is that you can have an offset here where you can kind of sweep through it. And that allows you to sweep the filters that you've set up and down and modify all the filter cutoffs at once, keeping them all, in sync with each other. They're all affected in the same way. So that's really cool. So the other basic stuff that I said, the compressors, delays, reverbs, some of the, like the gain, frequency shifter, those things, I won't go over them. I want to really focus on their special effects. So for the first one, we'll talk about dispenser. So dispenser is an effect that's been around and made by Kilohearts for a long, long time. And the way this works is, and I just now understood what it does, is it's a transient shaper, where with the selected frequency, what it will do is it will actually slightly delay that. So it will give it a little phase shift, obviously using filters. And what that means is that it kind of shapes your transients in different ways. So let's actually turn this into a very transient heavy sound here. You can start the frequency shift here. So you can hear that it adds that weird kind of small delay to some of the frequencies. And that's really cool to just kind of change the characteristics of some of the transients. So I would recommend using this kind of stuff on like drums and stuff like that. If you don't know, if you get the full Kilohearts suite, you can also have individual effects in here. So you could also take this cursor here and just throw it on its own. You can see it has the exact same controls. It's just that the interface is a little bit different looking. But it works the same way, and it does the same kind of stuff here. So you can add those to your own like sounds as well. You don't have to open them up in FaceBand. The next effect that I want to go over is this ensemble, which is a really cool way to add detune to a sound. So here you can see you can set the detune amount. You can set the spread, which determines how far apart they are, which doesn't really show up here. You can set the amount of voices up to 16, and it kind of gives you a cool visual of what it's doing. And there's different movements. There's like a sine wave movement, and there's like random movement where it just kind of randomly goes. And then there's obviously mix knob, and the spread is the stereo width. So it does show a little bit now with the random movement how it goes more up and down. So that's the difference between left and right channel, and it's adding detune that way. So you can kind of compare this to the hyper effect in Serum. So if we open up the sustain again, there's different modes, and it's a little bit more advanced than the hyper effect in Serum, but it works in the same way as it copies whatever sound you have and puts it into multiple voices, and then outputs that again at slightly different frequencies. The next up is Saturator, which others might also know, as it's also a standalone plugin made by Kilohearts. This is a very common plugin here, and basically this is just a fat making. Kind of think about it like those plugins, like for example the one knob saturator, or the sausage fattener. Those kind of plugins that just make it really loud. Think of it as the Kilohearts version of Sound Goodizer. It just has a little bit more control. There's this drive here and this fuzz. So there's two different distortions, saturation algorithms. You have a color for filtering, and then you have a mix amount, and you can give some stereo as well, which just makes the effect more stereo, and therefore it introduces a lot more stereo into your sound. The next one, which I'll go through, is a has, which is just a very simple has delay. For those who don't know, what it will do is it will delay one of the channels. So either the left channel or the right channel will have a little delay on it. Just as in delayed in time, playing later in time. And you can see, you can set the amount of delay in milliseconds. And what that will do is introduce stereo, because the left and the right channel are different because of that delay. So that's the has effect here. Next one is the ladder filter. Again, for those who don't know what a ladder filter is, the explanation is that it's a very particular kind of filter that has a very nice texture to it, and is used commonly in analog synths, and that's where it kind of comes from. And this is just a digital recreation of that. So you have a filter cutoff, a resonance, and you have two modes, the transistor mode or the diode mode. Obviously, one is mimicking the transistor circuit and the other is mimicking a diode circuit. And then you also have a saturation knob here with a little bit of color, or bias in this case. Again, the bias is the same as you would have with any other distortion here. Actually, if I show it here, the bias is the same as what the bias does here, where it shifts around the kind of distortion curve that you've selected to the left or to the right. Kind of, you can see what it does to the waveform. It either turns the waveform up or it turns the waveform down. So be careful with that, as it can introduce some DC offset into your sound. But it's a nice way to kind of shape it and give the different tone. And of course, this whole filter is perfect for stuff like asset leads, as those original 303s also used a ladder filter, a diode ladder filter to be exact. And there's a whole bunch of other analog synthesizers that really kind of became famous for their good ladder filter sounds. And this is trying to emulate those sounds. So if you want more analog sounding filters, then you get a ladder filter. Please note that this is only a low pass filter, so there's no way to change the filter type, and it only works with a low pass. because that's what the original ladder filter was for. The next one I'll talk about is phase distortion, because this is kind of an odd one. It's a weird distortion type, which I'm not really sure exactly how it works with stuff like the sidechain. But basically it introduces phase distortion into anywhere into the chain. So how you would normally introduce like phase distortion is here. So stuff like this, you could consider that phase distortion. And this is also introducing that as well. So let's actually open up a new group here and set a sine wave, and we'll take an output. What we can do is we can send this to the sideband and then take audio from the sideband. And this is now going to be what is causing the distortion, but on this sound. So that sounds. You can hear kind of this FM-y sounding effect from it. You can play with the tone and whatever. So it's a way to add phase distortion to anywhere into your chain. And again, very creative plugin, especially because it has a sidechain input. There's a few more plugin or a few more effects that have a sidechain input, like the normal compressor here. And I think, let's see if we can find something else. Maybe the gate. Yeah, the gate also has a sidechain input. So obviously everything you expect to have a sidechain input has one, and phase distortion also. Also some other things might have an external input like this here, if it requires one. So in SnapHeap you can open it up and start using the external input from SnapHeap in there. Other than that, all the other effects are very, very basic. And that's kind of the power of the Kilohearts workflow. I've talked about this before in the very first one, where I talked a little bit about the host as well. What's really, really powerful about Phaseband is that you can just open up everything everywhere. So let's open up a multipass here as an example. I can just open up whatever I want in here. And you can see a whole bunch of different effects. I can just put it in there and kind of create my own little new effects. And then I can save that as a preset and just open that up. Maybe I want to open up another one. I open up another multipass here with a different preset. So here we have another multipass. I can, for example, go to a distortion here, and this will just open up a distortion effect right for me. And we kind of have these very, very creative and very, very like complex effects all created out of modular blocks. And that's really where the power comes in. You don't have to open up a whole effects suite plugin to just have a transient shaper. But if you want a really cool multiband transient shaper with distortion and whatever, you can just make that in multipass really easily. So that's where the power of the Kilohearts suite kind of comes in. And I'm very, very excited for kind of creating effects with this in mind and with this workflow in mind. Of course, I'm still learning it. I'm a little bit late to the party of Kilohearts because I only have it for about 2 months now. But it's been working out really, really well for me. And any serious sound designer who really wants to dive in and get, very hands-on, which is very, very possible because of, again, the modularity of this whole synth. I would highly recommend at least getting Phaseband, but also getting just the entire suite with all the effects and other instruments that they have. So yeah, that's going to be it for today. If you enjoyed this and if you're looking forward to some of the next videos, then subscribe and also leave a like on the video. That really helps. With that being said, actually, that's going to be it. So bye bye.